Hi everyone, today we are going to be talking about linear relations. We are going to determine the equation from a table of values, and we are going to be recalling the terms interpolation and extrapolation. All right, go ahead, grab a pencil and a piece of paper, and let's get started. Our first question says determine the equation from a table of values. And I'm going to abbreviate that TOV for short. So if you see that acronym, I'm referring to a table of values. Okay, so I have my table here. So down the X column, I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down the Y column, the values are 5, 8, 11, 14, 17, and 20. So we need to determine the change in the Y values and the change in the X values. So go ahead and let's do that. So as I move down that Y column, so the changes we move from 5 to 8, well, we're adding 3. The change as we move from 8 to 11, again, adding 3. As we move from 11 to 14, we're adding 3. Don't assume though, let's just double check. 14 to 17, adding 3. 17 to 20, adding 3. And if we do the same thing on the X column, as we go down the column, looks like we're adding 1 each time. Okay, so now we can use this information to help us find the slope. Remember, the slope is the change in Y over the change in X, or in other words, the rise over run. So the change in Y is our rise, and the change in X is our run. So our slope is 3 over 1, or just 3. And we can look at our table of values and determine our y-intercept. So remember, our y-intercept is where the x value is 0. So on your table, just go ahead and look, well, where does the x equal 0? What's the corresponding y value? And that is our y-intercept. So in this case, the corresponding y value is 5. So our y-intercept, or the b value, is equal to 5. And we can put it all together to make our equation. So y equals 3x plus 5. You could put that equation into standard form. It's not required for this question. It's up to you. Leaving it in slope-intercept form is perfectly acceptable for this problem. And that's it. That's the answer. Okay, let's go ahead and look at a second example. So again, we're going to determine the equation from a table of values. And our numbers down the Y column are 7, 10, 13, and 16. And down the X column are 3, 4, 5, 6. So go ahead, fill in your table with the change in the Y and the change in the X. So we've added 3 down the Y column each time. And our change in X, or delta X, is adding 1. So plus 1. So we can determine our slope is rise over run, so 3 over 1. Or just 3. And the y-intercept, well, we don't have an x value equals 0 on our table. So what we need to do is something called extrapolate. So we're going to extend our table of values backwards so that we can find the value where x is equal to 0. So I'm going to look at the value of x when x is equal to 2, 1, and then 0. Okay, so this time instead of adding 3 to figure out what the value is at 2 for y, we're going to subtract 3. So 7 subtract 3 is 4. And then 4 subtract 3 is 1. 1 subtract 3 is negative 2. So by extrapolating, we can see our y-intercept is negative 2. Now we can put it all together and make our equation. So y equals 3x minus 2. So y equals 3x minus 2 is our final answer. All right, let's take a look at another question. Determine the equation from a table of values. So down the y column we have negative 5, negative 1, 3, and 7. And down the x we have negative 1, 1, 3, and 5. Okay, so again we're going to look at our change in y and the change in x. So as we move down the column from negative 5 to negative 1, what did we do? We added 4. From negative 1 to 3, again we added 4. 3 to 7, we added 4. On the other side, for the change in x, this time we're adding 2. So our slope is 4 over 2, which reduces to 2. And this time, again, we don't have an x value of 0, but we can interpolate. So we know the 0 is between the negative 1 and the positive 1. So what value is going to go in between the negative 5 and the negative 1? Negative 3, that's correct. Okay, so that is our y-intercept by interpolation. So the y-intercept is negative 3. And putting it all together into our equation, y equals 2x minus 3. And that's it. Great job. All right, one last problem, and that's it for today. Determine the equation from a table of values. Down the y column, we have negative 2, 5, 12, and 19. Down the x column, we have negative 5, 0, 5, and 10. Okay, as we move down the y column, our change in y, so we are adding 7. Adding 7, adding 7. The change in x, or the delta x, is add 5. This time we do have our x value of 0, so we can look right at our table for our y-intercept. So slope is 7/5. The y-intercept is 5. And putting it all together, y equals 7/5 x plus 5. Okay, great job. That is it for today. Take care. See you next time.